Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what happened? When did buying a home, something our parents took for granted, become a fantasy for most people? When did starter home start meaning lifelong mortgage? Because here's the harsh truth. Owning a home today isn't the American dream anymore. It's a luxury item. For decades, we were told that if we worked hard, saved money, and stayed responsible, we'd own a piece of land. But now the harder people work, the further that dream slips away. This isn't an accident. It's the result of a system that slowly and deliberately priced you out. The illusion of prosperity. They tell us the economy is doing fine, unemployment is low, markets are high, confidence is up. But behind those numbers hides the truth. Owning a home today requires more income, more debt, and more risk than ever before in modern history. Let's break it down. In 1985, the average home in America cost around 3 times the average annual income. Today, it's more than 8 times. That means a house that cost $100,000 back then would cost the equivalent of $400,000 today. While wages haven't even doubled, do the math. The numbers don't add up. And yet people are told to just save harder. But you can't save your way out of an equation that's rigged against you. The interest rate trap. For years, cheap money created an illusion of affordability. When interest rates were near zero, it seemed like anyone could buy a house. Mortgage payments looked small. Debt felt harmless. But that illusion was built on sand. Because when the Federal Reserve started raising rates to fight inflation, the entire system cracked. Mortgage rates jumped from 3% to over 7% almost overnight. To put that in perspective, the same $400,000 home now costs double in monthly payments compared to 2021 double, and wages barely moved. So it's not that people don't want to buy homes, it's that they literally can't. The investor takeover. But there's another layer to this, one that most people never see. While ordinary buyers were struggling to scrape together down payments, Wall Street was quietly buying neighborhoods. Big investment firms, companies with billions in capital, realized something during the last housing crash. Why sell homes one by one to families when you can buy them all and rent them forever? So they did. They bought thousands of single-family homes across America. They outbid everyday buyers, paying in cash, pushing prices even higher. And now they rent those same houses back to the people who were supposed to own them. Congratulations! The American dream has been turned into a business model, the debt generation. Let's talk about Millennials and Gen Z, the most educated generations in history. They did everything right. They studied, they worked, they tried to save. But instead of stability, they got student loans, inflation, and rent that eats half their paycheck. The system told them, just get a degree, just work hard. But it never told them the cost of that advice. Decades of debt that delayed every milestone in life. Now they're 30, 35, 40, still renting, still saving, still waiting for the right time to buy. But the right time keeps moving further away. Because here's the truth. Every year you wait, the ladder gets taller, and the rungs get greased. The supply mirage politicians love to say the problem is supply. We just need to build more homes. But if it were that simple, the crisis would already be over. We've been building, just not for you. Developers are chasing profits, not affordability. Luxury condos, high-end apartments, short-term rentals, because that's where the margins are. Meanwhile, entry-level homes, the ones young families actually need, are vanishing. In the 1970s, 40% of all new homes built were starter homes. Today, it's less than 8%. The result? An entire generation locked out of ownership before they even got the chance to try. The rent trap, and when you can't buy, you rent. But that's not safety, that's captivity. Because while housing prices exploded, so did rent. In some cities, rents rose 30% in just 2 years. Even in smaller towns, the numbers are brutal. So people end up paying more in rent than they would on a mortgage. But they can't qualify for the mortgage because they're paying too much rent. It's a trap with no exit. And here's the cruel part. Every month you pay rent, you're buying someone else's asset. You're building someone else's wealth. You're funding someone else's freedom. That's not your fault, but it is your reality. The inflation illusion. People think inflation just means higher prices. But the real danger is what it steals. Inflation steals the time between your work and your reward. It erodes your savings while you sleep. If you're saving for a down payment, inflation is your invisible enemy. Every month you wait, your money loses power. So you chase harder, you save more. And the finish line keeps moving. The result is exhaustion. A generation that's tired of trying to outrun a system that keeps shifting the goalposts. The emotional toll. And maybe that's the part nobody talks about enough. The emotional side. Because home ownership isn't just financial, it's psychological. It's the feeling of safety, permanence, belonging. It's the ability to say, this is mine. And when that dream gets stripped away, it's not just an economic loss, it's an identity crisis. People feel like failures for not being able to buy what their parents could afford on one income. But the game changed. The rules didn't. You're not losing because you're lazy. You're losing because the board got tilted. Let's pull the curtain back. Because this crisis didn't just happen. It was engineered, the banking system's hidden role. Every time the cost of homes skyrockets, someone's profiting, and it's not the average buyer. Banks make their money not when you buy a home, but when you borrow to buy one. The bigger your mortgage, the more they earn. So what's their incentive? Keep prices high. Keep people borrowing longer. That's why 30-year mortgages became the norm. It's not to make homes affordable. It's to stretch your payments so you can afford the price tag while paying 3 times the cost over your lifetime. And just when you think you're about to pay it off, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance keep you chained to the system. Because debt, not ownership, is what fuels the modern economy. And your dream home? It's their dream product. How the government feeds the bubble. You'd think politicians would fix this, right? But the truth is, they can't afford to. Housing markets drive everything. Consumer confidence, construction jobs, tax revenue. If home prices fall, everything slows. So instead of cooling prices, they protect them. Every policy, every tax break, every first-time buyer incentive sounds helpful. But most of them just push prices even higher. It's like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. They don't want affordable homes. They want affordable debt, because debt keeps the wheels spinning. The trap of cheap credit. For a decade, interest rates were near zero. It felt amazing, money was easy, mortgages were cheap. But easy money never comes without consequences. When borrowing costs nothing, people bid up prices, not just for homes, but for everything. The more you could borrow, the more you'd spend. That's how we ended up with record home prices and record household debt. Now that rates are back to reality, the hangover is brutal. And guess what? The system needs you to keep borrowing, even when you can't. Because if people stop taking on debt, the machine stalls. That's why inflation is fought with interest rates, but never truly fixed. Because the economy isn't built on productivity anymore. It's built on payments. How real estate became a financial asset. Here's where the story takes a darker turn. Homes used to be about shelter. Now they're about speculation. Wall Street doesn't see homes as places to live. They see them as yield machines. Pension funds, hedge funds, and private equity firms now hold billions in residential real estate. Not to live in, but to rent out. They treat homes like stocks, buying, flipping, securitizing. The same playbook that crashed the economy in 2008 is back, just with better branding. Your future home is now someone else's portfolio. And as long as that remains true, affordability will always be a myth. The psychological war of housing. The worst part? The system doesn't just take your money, it plays with your mind. It convinces you that renting is failure, that owning a home, no matter the cost, means you've made it. So people take out massive mortgages just to feel successful. They stretch their budgets, sacrifice their freedom, and end up house poor, owning the walls but trapped inside them. They're not free, they're just financed. And that's how the system wins, by turning your identity into collateral. The generational divide: boomers bought homes for 3 times their salary. Millennials face 8 to 10 times that ratio, plus debt, inflation, and unstable jobs. Yet the narrative still blames the young. They eat out too much. They buy coffee. They should stop renting apartments and start saving. But how do you save for a down payment when rent takes 50% of your income and wages haven't kept up with prices for 30 years? This isn't about avocado toast. It's about an economy that stopped rewarding effort and started rewarding ownership. The two economies of housing. There are now two economies. The first is for those who already own. Their wealth grows automatically. Their homes appreciate while they sleep. The second is for those who don't. They pay rising rent, rising taxes, rising everything. They fund the wealth of the first group. That's the cruel math of modern real estate. And it's why wealth inequality keeps widening, because the ladder isn't broken, it's been pulled up. So what can you do? Let's be honest. You can't fight trillion-dollar institutions head-on, but you can play the game differently. First, understand this. Owning a home isn't the only path to wealth anymore. In fact, for some people, it's a trap. If you buy at the wrong time, at the wrong price, with the wrong debt, you'll spend 30 years buying an illusion of security. But if you invest strategically, even without a mortgage, you can build real financial freedom. How? By turning your money into assets that pay you, not trap you. Because the goal isn't a house, the goal is ownership. And there are many ways to own. The new path to freedom. Step 1. Break the belief that renting means losing. Renting gives you flexibility, mobility, and liquidity. The key is to use that freedom to invest elsewhere. Step 2. Buy assets before you buy walls. Stocks, index funds, REITs, businesses. They grow faster than the average home ever could. Build your wealth first, then your address. Step 3. Learn the rules of leverage. Debt isn't evil. Uneducated debt is. The rich borrow for assets. The poor borrow for lifestyle. The middle class borrows for identity. Be the first group. Step 4. Think in cycles, not headlines. Housing always moves in waves. If you can't afford the tide right now, don't drown trying. Wait, prepare, and strike when the math, not emotion, says yes, the future of housing. In the next decade, we're heading toward a full transformation of what home even means. Fractional ownership, shared equity, tokenized real estate, digital-first lending, global capital markets buying local homes. It's not fair, but it's real, and pretending otherwise won't save you. What will save you is understanding the system and learning how to move with it, not against it. Because every time the system changes, a small group of people learn the new rules early, and they win big. That group can be you. The real dream. Home ownership was never supposed to be about granite countertops or square footage. It was about freedom, but freedom doesn't come from the deed. It comes from control. Control of your income, control of your expenses, control of your investments. When you master that, the world can't price you out because you've priced yourself in. That's the new version of the dream. The closing truth. The world changed quietly while everyone was distracted. Homes became assets. Buyers became borrowers. And what used to be a dream became a business plan. But if you understand how it works, if you stop chasing illusions and start building ownership in smarter ways, you'll win the only game that still matters, the one where you own your freedom. So the next time someone says, nobody can afford a home anymore, remember this, they're right, but not forever. Because while everyone else is complaining about the system, you'll be learning how to profit from it. And when the next cycle resets, and it always does, you'll be ready to buy not just a house, but your way out.